Let me know when you're up and running.
Yep, it might just take 1 second here. All right, Commissioner Frisbee, you are live.
Okay. We call to order the June 2020 Board of Commissioners regular session. Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Steve Frisbee,
Present.
Commissioner Derek King,
Here.
Commissioner Tommy Miller,
Present.
Commissioner Gary Tompkins,
Present.
Commissioner Kathy Suvetti,
She's trying to join us now.
Commissioner Rochelle Hatcher,
Present.
Commissioner Jake Smith.
Present.
You have quorum.
Okay. If someone sees Kathy soon, let us know. We took a moment of silence tonight. We were honored to have Bishop Neil Smith from Kingdom Builders at Bath Creek, and he's going to offer us an invitation.
Chair Frisbee, it's hard to hear you when your head is down, just an FYI.
Okay. Is that better?
Yes, much better. Thank you.
Dr. Smith, go ahead with the invocation.
Kind Father, we thank you for this privilege and this opportunity. We thank you for our Calhoun County Board of Commissioners. We thank you, God, for our leadership of this county. We ask that you would guide them today as they go through this agenda, and that they may continue to lead this county in a way that's good for your people. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Commissioner Hatcher, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Certainly. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of the United States of America and to the republic of which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberties and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Actually, I have the worst case of allergies that I've had, and I don't know how long. So I hope that didn't sound too bad.
You did great.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion to approve the January 18th, 2020 Board of Commissioners regular session agenda as presented?
So moved. It's Miller.
Motion by Miller,
Support, Smith.
support by Smith. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Actually, we need to take a roll call. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Madam
Commissioner
Clerk?
Betty, I don't believe she's on yet.
Nope.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yeah.
Commissioner Frisbee,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins.
Yes.
You have 6 yes?
Commissioner Betty is now on with us. We are voting on the adoption of the agenda.
Was that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. 7 yes.
Motion carries. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the Board of Commissioners, May 21st, 2020 regular session as presented?
So move Tompkins.
Moved by Tompkins,
Support
King
by
thought.
Betty.
support by Betty. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Frisbee,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Betty.
Yes.
7 yes.
Motion carries. Next is citizens' time. The next item on the agenda is citizens' time. During citizens' time, the board chair shall recognize any person wishing to address the board. A person recognized by their chair shall call in and state his or her name and community of residence. A person may address the board only once on the same matter during each period set aside for citizens' time on the agenda, and only matters that are relevant to county government. The chair shall control the length each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes, and shall not allow negative personal comments. Please mute your TV or computer when calling in, as the background sound will generate a feedback. Please note that there is approximately a 10-second delay between the live meeting and the YouTube feed. Is there anyone that would like to address their commissioners? Hands up in the attendees.
Chair Frisbee, can I make a suggestion that all of us at least have our computers on mute? And then when we push the space bar to temporarily unmute us, it will eliminate a lot of the covering of people's voices.
That sounds good. Thank you. State Representative Hosma.
Good evening, Chair Frisbee and Calhoun County Commissioners. It's my pleasure to be back among friends at the Calhoun County Board of Commissioners. I wish I were at the board chambers, and I'm hopeful that you might be back in the board chambers relatively soon. I'm going to take this opportunity to commend the county and its participation with the city of Battle Creek in relation to the Joint Operations Center and the Joint Information Center. The communication in relation to the Joint Information Center on Wednesdays has been very valuable to me as the representative for the 62nd District in context of knowing that which is going on the ground in Calhoun County, knowing the numbers of tests, positive COVID responses, and some of the activities such as the jamborees that were done recently in Albion, and then more recently in Battle Creek referenced COVID-19 testing. I also want to commend the Department of Public Health for collaborating with the agency which provided, National Guard, which provided testing at these sites. I think that that's been very helpful, and it's too been helpful to learn from Eric Pessel about some of the limitations in the lab testing after the studies are done at places like Albion and Battle Creek to ensure that the results we're getting back are in fact still relevant and aren't irrelevant because of passage of time. I also want to assure all of you that I will be working hard to make certain that Calhoun County and our communities in Calhoun County, like the city of Battle Creek or like the city of Albion or like Penfield Township or like the village of Homer, do get local monies and working very diligently to try to ensure that federal dollars come to the state and then go down to the locals, because I know as a former Calhoun County board member how important that local money is. And I finally want to, having heard that Commissioner Vetty is on, thank her again for several years ago when I started to read the Juneteenth proclamation. I couldn't get through it. It affected me so much. So Commissioner Vetty was very helpful to me in lending me a hand in getting through that Juneteenth commemoration. And I thought of that earlier today in context of the Juneteenth celebration we'll be celebrating this next weekend. So thank you all. Look forward to continuing to be available to you if you have any state-related issues at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie Whitfield. Carrie, you're on.
He's rejoining. It's going to take just a second, I think.
Okay.
For your selection of Tino Smith as your new jury board member. We as NAACP extend our appreciation for your continued attempt
Steve, I'm going to have him rejoin in. You might want to tell him just to have him start fresh. He's back in now.
Okay. Carrie? Carrie, you'll need to unmute yourself.
I wanted to first recognize and show appreciation for the commission and any other elected officials on this meeting. The principal reason why I am here today is to say thank you for your giving Tino Smith the opportunity to serve on your jury board. It has been presented to us at NAACP Battle Creek that you guys have gone the added extra miles to make diversity a part of your activity. And we as the NAACP like to thank you for doing just that. You guys work pretty hard. We appreciate the work that you're doing. But most importantly, we just simply appreciate you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity of being on this Zoom call. And I look forward to seeing each of you at some later date. And that's it.
Thank you, Carrie. Bishop Tino Smith.
I want to say thank you and to the newly appointed Kimberly, her and all of you, Rochelle and all of you. Thank you. I was not, I was going to wait until you called my name, but since Carrie called in and mentioned my name, I guess I'll say something now. Thank you for the opportunity. And I would do whatever I can as a former Calhoun County Commissioner. Also, Jim Hodgman, good to see you. I would do all I can to serve the best way I can in this county. And again, more information of my assignment. I'd be glad to do what needs to be done as we continue to heal as not only a nation or a city, but as a county. And I think we're doing that. And so thank you again, Chairman, and to all of you all for allowing me to serve in this capacity. Thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to you serving in that capacity. Is there anybody else that would like to address their commissioners tonight? Anyone? We'll wait just a few minutes. See if anybody else pops in. Do we know where that sound is coming from? Okay, Austin, I don't see anybody else attempting to get in. Do you see anybody coming in, Austin?
No new callers, and I think we're good to go.
Okay, we'll move along. Elected and appointed county officials comments. Is there anyone who'd like to address us tonight? Prosecutor Gilbert.
I'd like to welcome Dr. Tino Smith to the county jury board also. I'd also like to point out and bring out the Major Crime Task Force. They just completed an investigation in the death of Allison Sargent, resulting in charges being brought against a young man. They put not just numerous hours like the sheriff talked about, they put in over 100 hours, but you had over 40 investigators throughout the state involved in this case. They did an excellent job. And I point out our Sheriff Hinckley, when this case first started, he was basically the lead of the Major Crime Task Force. Then he was appointed sheriff, and he passed the case on to some excellent detectives. I thank him very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Sheriff Hinckley.
Hey, thank you. I think Dave got his hand up first, and he said exactly what I was going to say, but I just want to add on. There are two Calhoun County Sheriff detectives that put a lot of time, night and day for months into that case, and I'm just proud of both of them. So if you get an opportunity and you see them, they certainly would appreciate a shout out. They did a great job, and that was a long investigation. And again, like the prosecutor said, there were over 40 search warrants that were executed during that. And I just want to say both of them, John Pignataro and Dave Huminga, did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. We will. Are there any other county officials that would like to speak tonight? Okay, we'll move along. Next, we have a special order of business. We'll have LGBTQ Pride Month proclamation read into the record by Commissioner Jake Smith.
Thank you, Chair Frisbee. Proud to read this into the record again. So we'll begin with, whereas Calhoun County supports the rights of every citizen to experience equality and freedom from discrimination, and whereas all people, regardless of age, gender identity, race, color, religion, marital status, veteran status, national origin, sexual orientation, or physical challenges, have the right to be treated on the basis of their intrinsic value as human beings, and whereas Calhoun County accepts and welcomes people of these diverse backgrounds and believes a diverse population leads to a more vibrant community. And whereas the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer communities contribute to the cultural, civic, and economic successes of Calhoun County. And whereas the Calhoun County Board of Commissioners also acknowledges the need for education and awareness that remains vital to end discrimination and prejudice. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Calhoun County Commission does hereby proclaim June 2020 as LGBTQ Pride Month in Calhoun County, Michigan, and encourage our residents to reflect on the ongoing struggle for equality members of the LGBTQ community face and celebrate the contributions that enhance our community.
Thank you.
Signed, Chair Steve Frisbee.
Can I have a motion to approve the LGBTQ Pride Month proclamation as presented?
So moved. Smith.
Support, Vetty.
A motion by Smith, supported by Vetty. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Frisbee,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins, Commissioner Tompkins,
I do not see him in here currently. Well, there he is. He's muted.
Sorry. My apologies. Yes, I apologize.
Commissioner Betty,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher.
You're muted, Rochelle.
Yes.
7 yes.
That carries. Next, we have the Juneteenth Day proclamation. Now will be read into the record by Commissioner Gary Thompson.
All right, thank you, Chair. Certainly appreciate it, and it's certainly an honor to read this Juneteenth Day proclamation in the record this evening. Whereas Juneteenth had its origin in 1865 in Galveston, Texas, observing June 19 as the African American Emancipation Day and is the oldest known celebration of the ending of slavery. And whereas Juneteenth commemorates the date June 19, 1865, when the last African American slaves held in Confederate states were freed, and has been observed since June 19, 1866. And whereas it is a time for reflection and rejoicing, a time for assessment, self-improvement, and for planning the future. Its growing popularity signifies a level of maturity and dignity in America long overdue. And in cities across the country, people of all races, nationalities, and religions are joining hands to truthfully acknowledge a period in our history that shaped and continues to influence our society today. And whereas sensitized to the conditions and experiences of others, only then can we make significant and lasting improvements in our society. Therefore, be it resolved that the Calhoun County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim June 19th as Juneteenth Day in Calhoun County and encourages all citizens to participate in Juneteenth Day celebrations as permissible and to honor this great moment in the history of our nation. Signed by Steve Frisbee, Chairman of the Calhoun County Board of Commissioners.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the Juneteenth Day proclamation as presented?
So moved. Hatcher.
Support Tompkins.
Miller.
Motion by Hatcher, support by Miller. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner Frisbee,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Vetty,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
7 yes.
Motion carries. Next, we have the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda of June 18th, 2020, Board of Commissioners regular session as presented?
So moved Tompkins.
Support Betty.
Moved by Tompkins, support by Vetty. Any discussion? All right, I have one comment, and I already did say something about Tino Smith, and I think it's an important appointment for our community. Glad that he's elected to be able to take that on as a member of the community and represent as well. So good luck to him.
Point at the speaker, Chris.
I'm sorry. And then I'm really impressed with the amount of local road agreements that we have currently in the resolutions tonight. That speaks highly to John and others at the road department and reaching out and forming those relationships and getting those in place. So we appreciate that. Anybody else? All right. We have a motion and support. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Vetty,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Frisbee,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
7 yes.
Motion carries. Are there any special committee workshops? Commissioner Tompkins.
Thank you, Chair. We did meet, our senior millage allocation committee met June 5th via Zoom. We continue to do that, obviously, in considering taking the necessary precautions for everybody. First and foremost, Doug Farrell, our program manager at the Calhoun County Community Development, was on hand to present information regarding the Parks and Rec millage that will be coming in August, as well as an update on the countywide transportation recommendation. We also approved the recommendation to move the SMAC meeting that was originally scheduled for July 10th to Thursday, July 2nd at 8 a.m. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the July 3rd is a county holiday in reference to July 4th. So it was agreed upon everybody to have it July 2nd at 8 a.m. And based on all indications, we will continue in a Zoom format with that as well. We also did enter into some preliminary discussion on the senior millage vision statement, which is just very preliminary and which will be fully addressed at our strategic planning session on August 28th. As far as the Trailway Alliance was scheduled for June 10th, but was once again canceled due to no pressing issues and certainly with the understanding the necessary precautions for COVID-19. So that are my updates for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, I have one update from 911. We met last Tuesday. Discussion ensued about funding, and there was a board vote there to bring a ballot question to the county commissioners in our July meeting. It would be an up to $3 per device funding mechanism that would replace all local funding from county, city, and township governments. The fee for service would disappear as well. So that will be up for our consideration. I'll have more information for you at our July 18th meeting. Anybody else? Okay, we'll move on. I don't have any unfinished business. We'll turn it over now to County Administrator Controller Kelly Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, commissioners. My first update is that with the governor declaring that our region of the state is now in phase 4 of the 6-phase reopening plan, My Safe Start, our county government offices were all open by appointment only starting this past Monday. We had a countywide leadership meeting today, and they all reported things are going fairly smoothly. We're not hearing any complaints about the lack of access to all of the services needed to continue to improve our economy and the health of our residents. So happy to hear that. Also, we are at the Joint Operations Center reducing the frequency of the regular updates, the Joint Operations Center updates. If you remember, we started with 9 a.m., 4 p.m., 5 days a week. That had been reduced to just 9 a.m. Starting next week, we're reducing the update reports to just twice a week, Tuesday, Thursday, 9 a.m. And then our Joint Information Center, the media and local elected official update will still be happening on Wednesday at 1 p.m., at least for next week. So Tuesday, Thursday, 9 a.m., Wednesday, 1 p.m., and then our PIOs will continue to put out press releases and regularly update the website with the testing numbers, the number of new cases, and all of that on an ongoing basis. So I think that's a positive sign towards progressing till hopefully an ultimate end of this pandemic, even though we're still seeing cases and community spread throughout our community. Second, I have some other board and committee updates that will come out in my written update report tonight. First, the Michigan Indigent Defense Commission, or MIDC, met this past week to discuss compliance planning and budgets for next fiscal year. So this impacts our public defender office that began operations a year ago, September. Their fiscal year is October, and that office is funded. About 3/4 of the funding comes from the state budget that's dedicated to indigent defense, and then the county's required to continue to fund it at the level we have for several years. So Dave Macklett, our public defender, has submitted our budget and compliance plan for the year that's going to start October 1st. And that is hopeful that it will be approved in August. Although even though indigent defense funding is carved out by the legislature as kind of automatic because of the state's budget issues related to COVID-19, they are definitely talking at the commission level about what happens if they're not able to come up with enough appropriations to fund indigent defense. How will they evaluate each county separately and figure out how to reduce those? So disappointing, but it is just reality at this point. The Marshall Area Economic Development Alliance, or MEDA board, met also on June 16. We accepted our 2019 audit, approved the fiscal year 21 budget that starts July 1, and strategic plan. We have a vacancy in the CEO position, so we discussed that search among other updates. The MEDA, as well as the Visitors Bureau, are definitely also affected by reductions in hotel accommodations tax. So both of those boards have had to revise budgets drastically downward to just to downsize based on the lack of hotel occupancy for March, April, and May, and into the summer. So the CVB board also met on this past week, June 9. Kathy Sue Vetty, Commissioner Vetty, is the board chair. We approved the COVID Safe Start plan for the Visitors Bureau, and really just had a lot of discussion about the fact that at this point, under the current executive orders, we're still having to cancel locally sporting events, amateur baseball, softball, all of those tournaments at Bailey Park are still not able to happen because they're not able to socially distance by 6 feet at all times. So still kind of on hold there. And then finally, the Marshall Community Credit Union Board met on June 15. We also had an audit presentation and our annual mandatory Bank Secrecy Act training, just to make sure that as board members, we're all up to speed as to our responsibilities and about security there. I also just want to mention this past week, there was a U.S. Supreme Court decision regarding equal employment as related to sexual orientation and gender identity. So I just want you to know that county administration is in the process of assessing our policies, and our preliminary conclusion is that our equal employment policy would be the only one potentially impacted by that decision. And it may be that our policy already covers the clarification from that ruling. But if not, we will be prepared to bring back to the Board of Policy Revision to make sure that we're in compliance with making sure that our policies clearly state that we will not discriminate for employment decisions based on sexual orientation or gender identity. Also today, we got word that pending state legislation that is a supplemental appropriations bill, Senate Bill 690, is headed to the governor's desk. That does include $100 million for local governments to be reimbursed for things including hazard pay up to $1,000 each for first responders, which would include our sheriff's deputies and also the correction officers. So we will also be evaluating that bill and discussing, how that may impact the county and our budget and any compensation decisions there.
Okay.
And I think finally, I have just a couple more updates. Sorry. There was media coverage over the past week regarding the county's name, Calhoun County, and whether we should change that name based on the fact that it was named after John C. Calhoun, who was known for his support of slavery and white supremacy. So I sent out, and it was, I think, just before 5 p.m. this afternoon. I apologize that it took that long to pull it together, but I did send out some talking points about just the history of how our county was named, why it was named for John Calhoun, and then the conclusion that we have made over the years that because it was the Michigan legislature that created this county and its name, as well as 9 others in Southern Michigan that were named after President Jackson's cabinet members almost 200 years ago, before Juneteenth celebration, of course, that it would take a legislative action and possibly even a state constitutional amendment. That's about as far as we had gotten from a formal legal opinion. And we have reached out to the Michigan Association of Counties just to see if this question has come up. And there was a question sent by one commissioner this afternoon following my email about, what exactly does that mean? We don't know that answer yet about how it would be initiated, how much it would cost, and all of that. But our legal advice so far is just that it's not something we could just ask the voters to approve to change the name of Calhoun County, or the Board of Commissioners could vote. We would have to figure out what sort of action would need to be brought to the state if that was even an option. So in the meantime, what we're trying to do is emphasize that the county as a government, as an organization, as a lot of people who are invested in this community, and me personally and my management staff do not stand for anything related to discrimination or racist beliefs or actions that have anything to do with violence. We try our best to support inclusiveness and peaceful ways to express our individuality, but also as was eloquently built into the Juneteenth resolution, there's never enough, and it's just difficult other than attending these celebrations and gatherings, which are difficult to do right now. It's difficult to understand what actions we can take, but I'm here, as well as our county administration, putting out a statement that we acknowledge the history behind our county name, but we strongly believe that it really does not represent where we've been, where we're going, or what we stand for as a county. And so we're happy to enter into any community conversations about how to make things better, how to stop any brutality that leads to the death of Black people, and how to just be better public servants. I want to just mention the Veterans Affairs Committee met earlier this week, and they also put out a very nice Black Lives Matter statement that is linked to the report that is coming out today. So that's my report. And then just finally, I want to wish a happy Father's Day to all of the fathers on our board and that are listening in the audience, as well as happy birthday to Chair Frisbee on June 22nd. Birthday to you. Yeah. And that concludes my report. We have a pretty short agenda as far as new business this evening. And it starts with item number 12B1, which if you're following along on our PDF is on page 35. This is a request to waive policy that we just recently implemented or recently updated, and that's policy 509, the local road improvement policy that talks about how the county partners with townships to make improvements to our local road system. And in this case, it's specific to Leroy Township. So, and it relates to the proposal to turn a local road to gravel. And I think John Midgley, our managing director, is on the line to help with this. And he did a good job working with Jim Dyer, our Corporation Counsel, in the cover memo of explaining and then actually being transparent about including the conversation via email with the township. So basically, we're asking for the county board to allow a waiver of the requirement that the township specifically in writing agree to turn a road to gravel, because the township is acknowledging that by statute, by Act 51, the county owns the roads. It is our responsibility to keep them safe. And they're actually, I guess, acknowledging that it should be our decision, and they're willing to help with communications to their resident. But this would allow for a more seamless, within Leroy Township at least, really what we have the responsibility to do anyway, a more seamless process. The road borders Athens Township, and they have agreed to that it's a half-mile road, really should be turned to gravel based on its failed condition. So we just want to make sure that we're not violating board policy, and so we're asking for a waiver of that. And with that, if you have any questions, Jim Dyer and John Midgley are both in attendance tonight.
All right, let's get a motion on the floor. Can I have a motion to grant a waiver of section 3L of policy 509 concerning the return of gravel of a county road, local road limited to Leroy Township? For local roads within Leroy Township, the road department managing director may fund 100% of the cost to pulverize a failed road and place additional gravel for a serviceable road surface after providing a notice of intent to the Leroy Township Board as presented.
So moved.
Motion, Betty. Support? All right. Anyone want to support that?
Support Hatcher.
Support Hatcher. Thank you. All right. Any discussion? All right. Madam Clerk, please.
Whoa, excuse me. I have my hand up there. Sorry, Chair. Sorry, Chair.
Okay, go ahead. Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you, Chair. First and foremost, this 509 policy is something we all collaboratively work together with. One of the things that I know was one of the sticking points was this very issue with return to gravel. And if you remember, the initial policy had where we were pretty much dictating to the townships what they had to do. But then we really saw an outreach or an olive branch put out to the townships, which I will tell you that I can tell you from my district, and I'm sure from others, that it was very much appreciated that there was a collaborative relationships in terms of agreeing to how and when a road returned to gravel. And I think, Chair Frisbee, as you mentioned, one of the things you look at is look how pleased we are, certainly with a lot of the townships coming to the table this time around to actually get involved in our road share policy, which has been very pleasing, and I'm very pleased to see that. The issue that I have with this situation is the fact is, first and foremost, again, I'm all about not setting precedents, and I really believe this sets a precedent for us in this township, or excuse me, in this policy, and it somewhat diminishes the integrity of the policy because, again, like I stated, we've worked collaboratively with our townships. We really worked really hard. We as a county, we as county commissioners, we as road managing director Midgley, to build that relationship. And I'm a little bit taken back just because the fact is that non-committal type situation that was given to us. Yes, I understand that Act 51 does in fact give us the authority to do so, but I think what it does is it also hand ties us a little bit with, you know, if we're going to go back that and just say, well, it's our authority, then what good is our policy really about? I mean, certainly we can have discussions in the future about maybe what the policy looks like, but I really don't think we're at any position right now to be agreeing to that. I think the township does have a responsibility. We put that policy in place to give townships that availability, and they should be somewhat committal. I mean, the fact that they're non-committal on it, you know, the first time that road goes back to gravel and residents are going adamant about why did it go back to gravel. I mean, there's obviously this issue to say, well, the county told us we need, you know, they're the ones that made the decision. And I really don't think that's where we need to be. Our townships, you know, I can tell you, at least from my township's perspective, you know, they were very appreciative of that, of the policy as it states. And I really think that by setting this precedent, it's not a good thing for the county. So I will yield, but I would certainly advise to not approve this waiver tonight. Thank you. I yield.
Commissioner Miller.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, you know, the township saying that they realize it's in bad shape, but one person it looks like is the one requesting this, and one person, there might be 300 residents on that road, probably isn't that many, but to make one person happy, you might make a lot of more people pretty mad. I kind of agree with Gary a little bit here, but I think we need to get a request from the township itself, and I'd be glad to help them out, but I have a difficult time with this one right here. Thank you.
Commissioner Hatcher.
Yes, I'm sorry. I would just like to ask Commissioner Tompkins and Thomas the feedback from the townships and the townships. And I thought that some roads going back to gravel was what some residents want. Is that not, am I mistaken in that it's not the feedback that you're getting?
The current policy that we adapted to will give the townships, if the townships request it be turned back to gravel, then we would do that at our cost.
Right.
But the townships aren't actually requesting this. They're saying that road's in bad shape. And to me, if correct me if I'm wrong, John, is it just one or two people that's requesting this road to be turned back to gravel?
If I'm allowed to respond to Commissioner Miller.
Please do.
Okay, what we're doing, the one road is about a half a mile from Athens Township up to the county primary, which Athens is turning all that about 1.5 miles, 2 miles back to gravel. So there'll be a half-mile section in Leroy Township that won't be. So that's why we approached, once I got the signed agreement back from Athens Township, I approached Leroy Township asking about doing that one piece along with the other road that runs to the west, which has one resident on it, and it runs, ties into Kalamazoo County to a gravel road. So we asked originally to do those. That's what the response was from the township was, it's up to you, do whatever you deem to be appropriate. So that's why we brought it forward to the board.
Thank you.
So I would ask, does anybody else have any questions? Commissioner Hatcher, you have your hand up again?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. So I thought that we had vote and everything, you guys, it's been such along with all the COVID thing, but I was under the impression that we had voted to, or decided to wait until the townships ask us for that assistance. I guess I'm confused with this one.
Yeah.
Am I?
So I think what has happened here, and I'll have John and Kelly and Jim jump in. We asked them if they wanted to do this. They're in a position where they don't want to make a recommendation. So they're not for it, they're not against it, but they don't want a recommendation. And so far, they've abrogated that decision back to the county. And in that sense, that's the only going away from the policy 509 that is in place. So we said, do you want to make that decision with us? And they said, we don't want to make that decision. We're going to give that back to you. So in a sense, we followed the policy in saying, do you want us to do this? Communication back from the township was, no, we're not going to make a recommendation. So I think we've done our due diligence to say, do you want to or not? They're not against it. It makes sense to put the rest of that half a mile of road back to gravel instead of having a mostly failed surface. And they've clearly stated, we're not going to make that decision. We'll let you make that decision. So we asked the township for their input and approval. They're saying, we're not going to make that decision. We're going to leave that to you. Does that encapsulate the way I understand it? Does that encapsulate Kelly, John?
I would say yes. And again, we tried to make a policy that, as you mentioned, Chair Frisbee, definitely allowed the township to give us their written agreement before we just unilaterally went forward and turned a road to gravel. So like Commissioner Tompkins and Miller were talking about, a lot of townships really appreciated that, because the thought was, we're partners in this and we don't like the county telling us, you know, what to do with our roads. In Leroy Township, this has sort of been kind of their philosophy all along, different than some of the other townships, in that they would really rather have, you know, the county manage the local road system to the extent that they don't have a millage. We're not able to pass successfully a road millage. And so I think this, it really almost complies with the policy, because again, we did ask them, and they are not saying, you know, we refuse and we don't want this road turned to gravel. They're simply saying, we really just want to give that power back to you in the case of our township. And that's why we're limiting it just to this township. We're not trying to set a precedent for any other township. We're really trying to, in all cases, recognize the difference between townships and the difference between regions of our county, and how they have to communicate with their residents, and just trying to do what's best, you know, with those differences.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments?
Could I just add that we were in discussion with 2 or 3 other townships that were considering the possibility of turning their roads back to gravel, and obviously after doing their due diligence, they decided not to pursue that, and obviously that was the end of those discussions. So, and like Kelly said, we're limiting it to this one township who has basically told me that, you know, it's up to you to make the decisions on the road. So that's why we brought it forward.
Okay.
Have the residents been reached out to?
No, not the residents. There's about 3 residents on the Half Mile Road within Leroy Township, and there is, I believe, 1 resident on the other road running east and west to Kalamazoo County. So there's not a lot of residents, but the roads have failed.
Yeah, we have a lot of those. Is it unsafe?
Okay. Corporate Counsel Dyer.
Yeah, I think it's necessary to recognize that this is the 3rd possible case. You know, the policy itself recognizes there are 2 possibilities where the township agrees that a road should be returned to gravel, or a township disagrees. This is a unique situation where the township neither agrees nor disagrees. But the bottom line is, the roads, we are responsible to maintain the roads. So we cannot be in a situation where a township says, we don't care which way, what you do, but we are thereby stymied from taking the, and prevented from taking the action that our road department deems necessary. So I think you really have to seriously consider what rejecting this variance is going to do. It's going to prevent us from taking the action that we know is necessary. If you reject this, this waiver, I understand the idea that there's a concern that this creates a precedent, but it clearly states in the resolution it's limited only to Leroy Township, specifically to avoid creating any precedent by either appearance or actual precedent.
Can I say something else?
Please.
I mean, our position all along has been they're county roads, and the county has the say so in being able to do this. The reason why we changed the policy was to make the township inclusive, the townships inclusive. The townships are still staying inclusive. However, in this case, like Jim said, they don't want, ultimately, in layman's terms, they don't really want the blood on their hands. So it's the right decision to move forward. I don't think we can, I mean, we can wordsmith this or think about the what ifs or whatever over and over and over. Athens is turning theirs to gravel. Nobody really disagrees that it doesn't need to be gravel. We're saying it needs to be gravel. From a liability standpoint, it sounds like it needs to be gravel. Seems like a no-brainer to me.
Thank you. Anybody else with comments, questions? Okay, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner Miller,
No.
Commissioner Tompkins,
No.
Commissioner Betty,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher,
No.
Commissioner Smith,
No.
Commissioner Frisbee,
Yes.
Commissioner King.
Yes.
3 yes, 4
Qualified
no.
yes. I say qualified yes.
Pardon me?
Do you have a comment, Commissioner King?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, Jim, thank you for your explanation, and thank you for doing your part in trying to take the liability off the county. In this case, let's hope nothing bad happens on that road.
Thank you. All right, motion fails.
Sorry, I was muted. Item 12B2 is on page 39 of the packet. This is an annual request that we have had for many years with our partnership with BCAT's Battle Creek Area Transportation Study. They are our federal required transportation planning authority. So this is for the fiscal year that starts October 1st, fiscal year 21. So the requirement in order to receive federal transportation planning funds that pays for the work that BCATS does is that the local units of government provide 18% local funding. In our case, we have chosen, along with BCATS, to participate with the City of Battle Creek and Springfield City, and then the road department, each putting in a proportion based on population. So our proportion of that for next fiscal year is about $21,000. It's up just about $300 from the previous year. It's included in the road department's budget. And basically it helps to pay for the operations of BCATS and allow them to exist and function, but it also leverages money to fund what we need to do for traffic counts and for asset management. So it leverages additional state and federal funding. It most importantly, without the existence of BCATS and the long-term plans that we have for our roads, we would not be eligible to get safety grants and all kinds of other grants that we apply for. It's just a good policy to have an oversight committee that we participate on in order to make sure that we're making good long-term decisions about priorities for federal and state funding.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the Battle Creek Area Transportation Study Fiscal Year 2021 Local Funding Resolution as presented?
So move, Miller.
Support, Betty.
A motion and support. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Betty,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Frisbee,
Yes.
Commissioner King, Commissioner King,
You're muted, Commissioner King.
I know, yes. The background information, noise.
Commissioner Miller?
It's highlighting the person the noise is coming from.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
7 yes.
Motion carries.
Last item tonight under new business is for information only. That's our May financial statements. And our Deputy Controller Megan Banning prepared these for us. We're really trying to stay on track. Just a note, we're finalizing the 2019 audit within the next week. That will be issued. We've already talked about the year end there. With the May financial statements, I'll just mention a few items to draw your attention to. When it comes to the general fund, we've been obviously watching the impacts of COVID-19, reduced revenues drastically. Through May, there are some timing differences that I guess create some variances that if they were not there, our general fund would essentially be $8,000 lower this year, $800,000 lower this year than last year. So that's a significant variance. We have asked department heads to review revenues and expenses. Megan has also done a thorough review. So we're continuing to watch that, and we will be bringing forth a mid-year budget amendment, maybe the first meeting in August to account for those. But it could be significant, as much as potentially $2 million difference from our $45 million general fund budget. I'll note on page 49 of the financial statements, there's a note that talks about the COVID-19 effects to other funds. So I mentioned hotel accommodations tax. There are other funds. The juvenile home rents out beds to other counties. There are several impacts outside of the general fund. And then on page 50, there are road department financials as well. And then on page 51, we actually summarize countywide the COVID response costs, which at that point were about $500,000. And then also our joint operations center costs, which are being run through the county's general ledger, another $500,000 that should be reimbursed. We also note that the furlough program for about 25% of our employees, many of which are on partial furloughs, should generate about $1 million worth of savings for this fiscal year. 200,000 of which is road department, and the remainder will help the county's budget. So those are just some items to watch. And again, more information coming as we work out a mid-year budget review. I noted in the report that will come out tomorrow in my administrative report that we received our bond rating for the capital improvement bonds for Emmett Township and for our capital. They're happy with the way the county is managing our finances. They're very concerned about the ongoing economic pressures, mainly unemployment related to COVID. So they did reaffirm our bond rating at a AA, which is second highest you can get. They also adjusted our outlook. So there's a rating and then there's an outlook. The outlook has always been stable. It is now negative for the next few years as we watch the impacts of COVID. And depending on how all that shakes out, they will either adjust it back to stable or they could potentially downgrade our bond rating of AA. So we'll be including that report for your information as well. And that concludes my report for tonight. Thank you.
Can I have a motion to acceptance of the Calhoun County May 2020 financial statements as presented?
So move, Miller.
Support, Betty.
Motion support. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner Betty,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Frisbee,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins. Commissioner Tompkins,
I don't see him online.
you have 6 yes.
Motion carries. Citizens time. The next item is citizens time. The same rules apply as during the first citizens time. Please limit your time to 3 minutes and no negative personal comments. Please mute your TV or computer when calling in, as the background sound will generate feedback. Please note that there is approximately 10-second delay between the live meeting and the YouTube feed. Is there anyone who'd like to address their commissioners? Is there anyone who would like to address the commissioners? Austin, you see anybody coming in?
No new callers have connected in. I would just give it a couple minutes here and I think we'll be good to go.
Okay. Let me know when you think it's. Good to go.
Yep, nobody new and I think you're good to go.
All right, commissioners time. Any commissioners have anything to share tonight? All right, nobody. Claims payable. Can I have a motion to approve the claims payable for May 15th, 2020 through May 28th, 2020 in the amount of $6,807,573.16, and May 29, 2020 through June 11th, 2020 in the amount of $3,049,572.66 as presented.
So moved, Miller.
Motion by Miller,
Support Betty.
support by Betty. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Frisbee,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Betty,
Yes.
7 yes.
Motion carries. Are there any announcements?
If I may, Chair Frisbee?
Go ahead.
All right, thank you. First of all, I apologize for getting disconnected there, lost the signal. First and foremost, I want to take the opportunity to certainly wish all my colleagues here this evening a very happy Father's Day, and certainly to all the fathers out there. I know I'll certainly be enjoying with my family this coming Sunday. I also want to take an opportunity to wish a happy birthday to my dad, who will be celebrating his birthday tomorrow, which is always great to spend some time with him. And then real quickly on the announcement side, on Sunday, June 28th, the Albion American Legion will in fact be resuming its monthly brunches from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Social distancing and all necessary precautions will be required in order to keep everyone safe. But if you get the opportunity, come on out and support the American Legion and veterans. And then finally, sadly to announce, the Greater Albion Chamber of Commerce has announced that the Festival of Forks that's scheduled for September has been canceled due to the continued concerns of COVID-19 and keeping everyone safe. So just a couple announcements, unfortunately, that were already canceled out into September, and it's always a great event. So certainly we'll miss that one this year. Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that.
Yep. Any other announcements? All right, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you.